Welcome everyone. Today we're diving into a very special explainer on Active Directory lateral movement. Now here's the really wild part about today's operation. We're going to bypass password cracking completely. Seriously, zero cracking. Instead, we're going to use captured hashes and tickets directly as our master keys. So let's jump right in and see exactly how actual operators maneuver through a network completely undetected.
All right, consider your root terminal fully initialized. Just picture your Kali Linux setup ready to go, and our MARVEL.local lab is up and running. From our earlier recon work, we've already gathered some hashes and credentials. Now, it's time to actually execute the attack chain. And honestly, traditional passwords are about to become completely obsolete for us here. We are literally melting the old keys down.
First things first, we got to grab our raw materials. Whether you're using Mimikatz in a MeterPreter session over on workstation-01, or you're pulling them remotely with something like Impacket secret stump, you're going to get a very distinct string of data. The absolutely crucial thing here is isolating the NT hash specifically. It usually comes in a predictable format. You've got the username, like administrator, then a colon, the number 500, another colon, the LM hash, a colon, and finally the NT hash. We want that exact string sitting right after the second colon. We'll grab that for the administrator, and we'll snag it for our domain admin account, tstark, as well.
So now let's actually use it. We're kicking off a pass the hash attack using Impacket's psexec module. We essentially fire this at the domain controller's IP using the administrator account and the -hashes flag. Now if we don't happen to have the LM hash, no problem at all. We just use the standard empty LM hash, the one starting with AAD3B4, and combine it with our captured NT hash. The result is just beautiful. It seamlessly connects, creates a service, and immediately drops us into an NT authority system-level command shell directly on DC01. We literally just walked a forged key right into the bank vault, and we never even knew the plaintext password. It is an absolute nightmare for defenders.
But hey, why stop at just one machine, right? To really show off the sheer speed of a network compromise, let's bring in CrackMapExec. We can feed it that exact same administrator NT hash we just used, but this time we target the entire 192.168.10.0/24 subnet. CrackMapExec takes that hash and just blasts it against every single machine simultaneously. Almost instantly, the terminal completely lights up with pawn-3'd flags across the domain controller and both workstations. With just one single captured hash, we verified local admin access across the entire network in seconds. One key, literally endless doors.
Now, while psexec does give us a really quick system shell, sometimes you just need a more stable, comfortable environment for doing deep Active Directory enumeration, and that is exactly where Evil-WinRM comes into play. We fire up the tool, pass in our target IP, the administrator user, and our trusty NT hash. It seamlessly authenticates us and drops us right into a stable, highly interactive PowerShell session. This is the absolute perfect environment to run commands like getADuser and really set up a sustained post-exploitation presence. It's honestly like sliding open the server room doors and just pulling up a comfortable chair.
Okay, so the main takeaway here is knowing exactly when to use which tool. It's all about methodology. We used Impacket's psexec over SMB for that surgical, immediate system execution. Then we used CrackMapExec for a rapid network-wide sweep to map out our blast radius instantly. And finally, Evil-WinRM gave us that interactive, sustained administrative session. That's the golden operator rule. Master those three tools and you have complete, total control over how you navigate any compromised environment.
All right, let's shift gears a bit. We're moving from pass the hash to pass the ticket. The workflow changes here because Kerberos tickets don't actually live on the hard drive. They're stored temporarily in memory. So, jumping over to our compromised workstation-01, where Peter Parker happens to be logged in, we load up Kiwi in memory. First, we list out the Kerberos tickets, and then we actively purge our own just to avoid any weird conflicts. Finally, we run the Secularsa tickets export command. This dumps Peter Parker's raw Kerberos tickets directly from memory into a .kirby file, which we then download right back to our Kali Linux attacker infrastructure.
So we've got the stolen digital badge, but now we actually need to use it. Back on our attacking machine, we run Impacket-ticket converter to translate that .kirby file into a .ccache format, which our Linux tools can easily read. Next up, we set an environment variable called krb5ccname to point directly at that shiny new ccache file. And here's where the real magic happens. We fire up Impacket-psexec again, but this time we tack on the -k and -nopass flags. This basically tells Impacket, hey, completely ignore NTLM hashes and route our authentication purely through Kerberos. Boom! We are seamlessly authenticated to the domain controller as Peter Parker. I guess his spidey sense just didn't tingle in time to protect those Kerberos tickets.
So let's take this even further and see how this all builds up to the absolute ultimate cryptographic forgery, crafting a master key completely from scratch. This is a massive escalation. I mean, why rely on stealing existing tickets when you can literally just print your own? To forge a golden ticket, we need two highly specific raw materials. First, we need the exact domain SID, which we can easily snag using Impacket's getPoc. Second, and this is absolutely crucial, we need the NT hash of the KRBGT account. That's the Kerberos ticket granting ticket account. We usually grab this earlier on during a DCSync attack. These two strings of text, they are quite literally the DNA of our target network security.
Armed with those raw materials, we execute Impacket Ticketer. We feed it the cryptGT hash, the domain SID, the domain name, and the specific user we want to spoof. Let's go with administrator. Impacket then generates a completely forged ticket granting ticket, a genuine golden ticket, saved nicely as a CC-hash file. When we use this ticket with psexec, along with our -K and -no pass flags, the vault doors just swing wide open. We are instantly granted NT authority system. This completely forged ticket gives us unrestricted, domain-wide administrator access. And get this, by default, it remains valid for an entire decade. It is total, absolute compromise.
But sometimes going for total domain dominance is just way too noisy. And that is exactly where the silver ticket comes into play. Instead of forging a broad ticket granting ticket, we forge a highly specific service ticket. We fire up Impacket Ticketer again, but this time we use the NT hash of a specific service account, say the SQL service hash, along with that domain SID. We explicitly target the SQL SPN. This generates a specialized keycard that lets us authenticate directly to that SQL service. And the absolute best part about this? We never even touch or alert the domain controller. It's an entirely localized attack, making it incredibly stealthy.
Let's break down the threat matrix and compare these two absolute powerhouses. The golden ticket, right? It requires that KRBTGT hash and hands you absolute, domain-wide access on a silver platter. But it definitely has a higher detection profile because you still have to interact with the domain controller. On the flip side, the silver ticket just needs a target service account hash. It grants surgical single-service access, but it boasts an incredibly low detection profile because you are completely bypassing DC authentication. So, golden for total, sweeping control, and silver for quiet, undetected persistence.
Now, as security professionals, our job isn't over just because we popped a system shell. A penetration test is really only as effective as the documentation that follows it. Looking at our post-operation report, an attack chain like this is definitively categorized as critical. We absolutely have to outline our evidence log. We need to explicitly document every single compromised account, the exact source of every hash and ticket we pulled, the lateral systems we touched, and the duration of any forged ticket's validity. We really have to quantify the blast radius to ensure we properly communicate the severity of the threat to the client.
And with that, we're bringing this operation to a close. Session terminated. We completely bypassed all digital locks and achieved total network compromise, and we didn't crack a single plaintext password to do it. By relying completely on pass the hash and pass the ticket methodologies, we essentially moved like ghosts through the entire architecture. And honestly, it leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to wrap up this explainer. If attackers can just forge the master keys right out of thin air, how can defenders ever really trust their own locks? Thank you so much for joining us, and keep exploring.